Greetings, dears. So, the merry, merry month of May, yes? And how is it so far?
Good.
Are you still filled with foolery?
Sure.
So tell me about it. How did consciously being foolish affect you? Aye. Was a scratch, not a hand, all right? None of you were affected? All right. Hello, love.
I stopped being shy.
Good.
It started being more outward, foolishly. It was good.
Because everybody here knew how shy Violet was, right? The idea was that consciously allowing yourself to have fun, to laugh, to choose those things that would let you enjoy what you were doing, enjoy who you are, enjoy what was going on in your life. Even to the point of being a fool, as the world tends to think fool, or being the fool as in stepping into the unknown and taking risks and leaping forward, be that fool. So yes.
Yeah, I thought I'd just share
Good.
a little story that relates to that and the timing of that message of being a fool. I had a job offer, which would have been a temporary project, which involved PR writing that would have been, I think, would have been a stressful situation. And I ended up turning it down, even though it might have been lucrative. And I remember right after I turned it down, this voice in my head said, "You fool."
Pretty sure that was Mary.
All right.
So then, I thought that was a nice sort of reinforcement of my and you said, "Be a fool." No, but I really think it was the right decision, but I just, I had that dynamic going on. And I was glad that I chose to be rather foolish by some people's standards.
Well, and sometimes saying no to something is as hard as it is to say yes. Taking off in a new direction. Here is the opportunity, and I've been talking to you about all the opportunities and open doors that are coming your way right now. And to say no can be very difficult. How many of you have said no to something and second-guessed yourself? Wondered, was that the right thing to do? Should I have done that? Was it? Because that little voice in your head, which is, by the way, usually the voice that you had the first 7 years of your life, that little voice in your head likes to keep you very, very human, doesn't it? To remind you, stay safe. And what is it I'm always saying that voice says? Don't go in the woods, there are bears there and they will kill you. And we'll have to separate you from the tribe if you don't follow the rules. And I was encouraging you to break some of your self-imposed rules. That can be one of the most freeing things you do. So sometimes not listening to the little voices in your head can be pretty good, and sometimes sometimes listening to the little voices in your head can be good. How do you know the difference? When to listen and when not to listen?
Practice.
practice.
I think I tend to listen to my physical response and see if I'm feeling constricted and if I'm feeling fear. And that means I'm generally taking a look at it through a filter that is not going to be an open door. It's going to be something that's really closing in.
Good, good, very useful.
If my gut and head agree with each other, that's a good sign for me.
Good.
If my gut's disagreeing, then I really need to take a look at what this is
Good,
trying to get me to do.
very good, Angela.
If I feel a sense of limitation about what I'm looking into or about my ability to move forward into it, usually that's an indicator to me to not go forward. When I'm feeling more open and I can see that there are many options, even if I don't know the outcome, then that's usually an indicator it's okay to go forward.
Very good, very good. Stuart, David, Mary Claire, Kathy. Wake up,
I was just
then Martin.
going to say that reflecting and seeing if it's based in love or fear can often
Good.
tell me whether it's coming from my human self or my higher spiritual self.
Very good, very good.
Well, I guess I'm of the opinion that I'll never know, particularly since whatever decision I make changes things. And if it was the wrong decision, quote unquote, because of butterfly effect, whatever other decision I made might not have turned out what I would have thought anyway. So all I do is I accept that the decision, if the decision at the time has done the least harm, and I'm okay, it's good.
Good, good. If it doesn't kill you. That's good.
I think that, well, through practice, I've been able to tell the energy of those, what the information is, but I can feel it in my heart. There's a resonance in my heart that it fills me with a really sweet, loving energy, and I know that that's the voice that I need to listen to. And there's a lot to be said for practicing those, so that clearly the resonance of the energy, you can tell the difference. For me, I can tell the difference when it's just my human egoic self saying something, and it's coming from much higher parts of myself.
Nice, nice.
I was going to say that the voices that you shouldn't listen to are the ones that respond to medication.
Says the psychiatric nurse.
Yeah.
I think you meant psychotic.
I've got a foolproof way.
Yes.
I just asked Barry Brainerd. She tells me what Lee would do, and I go do it.
Ask St. Mary. That will always work.
I'm not sure that there is a right or a wrong answer to this, because everything is a doorway, and to just explore that, just because I feel good in my gut doesn't mean I'm going to do it, but I still have to look at my options and talk to people, like he said. So I don't know that there is a clear-cut answer for me, Sandra, because things that I've thought were great decisions turned out to be things that I had to work through a lot. Things that were like, I thought, oh, what am I doing? This is not the right thing, were the best things that happened to me.
Nice.
So, but if you have a better answer, I'm wanting to hear that.
Well, any answer I would have would probably be the grouping of all of these, because I think you've really shared a lot of wisdom in this. And it's the voices in your own head that you're listening to or not listening to. Generally speaking, I would tell you that the key is to know your own voice so that you know those voices that are not you. For instance, the voice of a classmate that bullied you, that you still hear in your head, or the voice of a parent telling you that you should be working harder or you'll never make something of yourself, or the voice of a lover who said, "You're not for me." When those are the voices in your head, you need to know that that's really not you, and it should not figure into your decision. But otherwise, you are learning in the process of practice how to hear your heart, your gut, your brain, your spirit. And the way that you get it is practice. You keep at it. You keep at it. You be willing to fall on your face and skin your nose and get right back up and keep going. That's how it works. And always, when you are, oh, you could say it in your sleep by now, couldn't you? Doing the best you can where you are with what you have, doing it with love, consciously choosing, then, as David said, you're going to see new pathways open up, and they will be more positive than if you are letting fear lead you. What is May about for you? Well, here in Kentucky, you just had a big part of it, right? Let's go torture horses. You call it something else. What is it you call it? Derby, Kentucky Derby, right. So what else is May?
Sunshine, the greening, garden, the birth of life force outdoors.
Feels good just thinking about it, doesn't it? Aye.
It's also Cinco de Mayo. I mean, it's in May.
Let's celebrate a massive loss. All right. But you can drink with it. We lost, all right. Give me one.
Mother's Day.
Who keeps you busy, doesn't it? Aye, Mother's Day. Beltane. Depending upon the time, yes. You like Beltane, do ya? You would like to please have a maypole and a female dog. Unless, and that's all right too.
It's the month of anniversaries for some of the best couples that I know.
Ah, the best ones. Good to know, good to know. Hi. And
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day. Torture horses, celebrate defeat, and honor the dead. It's quite a month, isn't it? And it's
Well, we suck.
Visoc. And what is Visoc?
Three of them.
There are 3 of them. They are very tiny socks, yes.
I think it's a Tibetan holiday, isn't it?
It is, it
On
is.
the full moons of April, May, and June.
Right, well, they're actually the full moons of particular astrological signs, but generally April, May, June is right.
I've heard that Wesak is the time Shambhala is most close, most available.
The veil is most thin, the outpouring of energy is the strongest, and do you remember what this particular Visoc is? Love wisdom, right. And and with the exception of torturing, losing, and what was that other one? Dying. Unity and love is a whole lot of what this month is about for you. Unity and love, for that is love wisdom. Now, a quick, very short Mother's Day is just the reminder that you are all mothers. And I say that in the nicest way, you mother. Because you all have, I know this crowd is so asleep. Because you all have that feminine aspect within you. It's not about gender. It's about energy, and energy expresses itself as masculine and feminine when it is expressed through your human experience. So, very quickly, tell me feminine characteristics. And remember, we are not talking gender here. So saying estrogen soft doesn't work. Compassion, yes. Nurturing, nice. Intuitive, perceptive, creative, life-giving. Allows rather than enforces. And the homework that I'd like to give you for this month of May is that you celebrate the feminine. And that's going to show up to you in many, many ways. It's going to show up to you in the growth that you see all around you and the growth that you see within you, which has been quite a bit. It's going to show up in the opportunities for compassion to help growth along. And by that, I don't mean with your garden, but certainly it could be with your garden. I mean it as in with friends, helping that growth along. With family, helping, positive, nurturing. Look for ways to celebrate the feminine. And that might mean seeing those news articles that are about somebody doing good. And you make note of it and you cheer on the energy they are. It might mean gathering together to focus your intent on amplifying positive feminine force in the world. And it might show itself up as some very practical gender-based things within the society. Women's rights, mothers' rights, and having a push there as well. But celebrate the feminine. And if you are fortunate enough to still have a mother in this world, and I mean fortunate, no matter what you think about your childhood, if you were fortunate enough to have a mother in this world, be sure to thank that person for allowing the energy that you are to become a part of this world. It's a gift.
My daughter Roxanne is with me today, along with my dog, helping me manage him.
So this is, say that again, love.
Hi.
Hi. I know you said something. You said,
Oh, I was kind of trying to tell her, she said I was looking after the dog, so I was asking her to make me look good while everybody was paying attention. I was curious, Samuel, if you don't mind my asking, there are things, physical things, happening all over this planet. I don't know if y'all heard about Hawaii. I mean, they're evacuating the main island because that volcano is that dangerous. And giant cracks have appeared as the glaciers have disappeared. And there are a bunch of scientists running around with their hair on fire because they say, come September, the
That's a
Arctic
great
will be
picture.
ice-free. Now, the only reason anybody's mentioning this is those type of situations bring on big change very abruptly. And, I mean, is that all just a figment? Am I just getting jerked around? Hey,
well, there is a certain amount of jerking going on there because September's coming up pretty fast, and I don't see the kind of disaster that the Arctic melting would create happening quite that fast. But for the most part, you're absolutely accurate. Your planet is shifting and stretching and, maybe in some ways getting back. And certainly, as you very often call the planet Mother Earth, this is rather a good time for it. You're in a season of transition. I just want to suggest that while you look at the multitude of things that are creating a lot of heartsick in your world, such as the flooding that is going on, the windstorms that are going on and are coming in your own springtime, the eruptions of not only the Hawaiian volcanoes, but of other volcanoes such as Indonesia and elsewhere along the Pacific. You have a name for the Rim of Fire. Ring of Fire, all right. The Ring of Fire. The multiple things that are going on that you might consider natural disasters. I want you to work to remember some of the things that were mentioned earlier about what you do when the little voices in your head are saying, don't go in the woods, the bears will get you, you're not safe, it's not going to be okay. That you keep moving forward anyway, that you choose to put into this world a positive spin on what you're seeing. Now, sometimes that literally is a positive spin, as in you are choosing to look at it positively. I want to remind you, your Earth always wins. You may do a lot of damage, but this planet is bigger than you. It is constantly remaking itself. And one of the ways that it does that is by getting rid of the old and creating the new. Humans, of course, have encroached into so many areas of the planet that it's kind of like building a house in a floodplain. You're taking a lot of risks. You are building your subdivision on a volcanic rift. Your roads might come apart when Pele says, I don't like this, it's time to start again. Choose to move through anyway, knowing that a positive force, particularly united in the intent of a positive force, is going to have a massive effect on those who are affected. That will be fun to see in the write out of this, won't it? The effect and the affected. Is going to have an effect on the way those who have been challenged by such things deal with it. How do you deal with chaos? And that's always the question. Chaos is a creative force. It is not necessarily a negative force. It is the ingredients, which is what change is all about. But it's also important when you are seeing a lot of unhappy things going on in the world. You read the newspaper and you're very aware of many unhappy things going on in the world, to also focus on what is working. Not only in your personal life, but in the world as a whole. So I want you to take just a moment and think about some positive things that are happening in your world right now. And who can name a positive something going on?
I had to make a decision about taking a medication, and it kind of ties in with how I went through the process of knowing whether it was the right one or not. It turned out that I had fear around it based on a past experience with a different medication. So I decided that I was kind of listening to my heart rather than to advice. And I did research and all those things. And I made a decision. And once I made the decision, I decided that I absolutely would embrace it. And that if anything gave me pause after that, then I could make a change if I wanted to. I was seeing the opportunity in it rather than seeing it as a limitation. And it has proven to be absolutely no negative side effects, very easy, feel better with it. And so it was one of those things that when you were talking earlier, I thought about that, and I thought, that's the process I went through. And by doing it that way, it has removed any kind of negative energy around it so that it literally can be a positive force.
Good, good.
And it's positive.
That's good.
Canada is experimenting with a universal wage in 3 cities, Thunder Bay being one of them, and maybe Toronto. And those who work would give 50% of what they earn to those who can't work and the poor in an effort to balance income equality. So it's a very interesting experiment.
Indeed, indeed.
I'm just really excited, and it's just such a wonderful thing to see young people finding their voice.
Yeah.
And standing up to authority when something they know is not right. And being courageous and bold and standing up for love. It makes me feel so wonderful.
Nice, nice.
So the chaos creates a perfect opportunity for unity and collaboration, and I'm seeing a lot of that. People coming together, you know, microcosmic and macrocosmic level. It's happening more and more.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The cancer rate in the United States has dropped 25% since 1991. Another one is Pakistan has planted over 2 billion trees.
Did you say billion?
Billion trees in Pakistan with the flooding that happened in 2015.
Right. Very nice, very nice.
North and South Korea have decided to combine their table tennis teams so they can compete as a unit instead of against each other.
Baby steps.
Good, good.
Hey, it's a step.
Yes, it is.
Women allegations of sexual misconduct up and were heard in court and actually won.
It's really important that you look for the good, because you should be coming up with a lot more stories than this. Although it's pretty good what you're coming up with. Your world is at a time of transition, and it really is about what you are doing in your personal life that changes how you see what's going on in the world around you, and therefore the energy that you are putting out because of that. Look for that positive. Now, while you are looking for that positive, you also want to be sure that you're doing the good you can. That if the road opens up in front of you, that you try to make sure that nobody else falls into the hole you almost fell into. It's not saying don't do what you can. It is saying do what you can. And I'm saying one of the things that you always can do is be that loving presence, that loving function of source that this world needs so desperately. A big thing about May is relationships, or at least insofar as the energy that's coming your way right now. You're moving in a function toward unity, but relationships are going to be forefront for you, certainly this month. Now, I want you to remember that relationships aren't just who you saw on Tinder this week. I don't think Tinder is the one I wanted to say, was it? Not that one. Well, somewhere. It's not just that kind of relationship. It's also talking about the relationships you have with each other, the relationship that you have with the star clerks, the relationship you have with yourself. And what I'd like for you to be looking out for, and I mean looking out for in this case, is where repair is needed. This is a time of reset. Do you know what I mean when I say reset? The clocks are not correct. You need to reset it. Reset. It sounds very much like recess, not the same thing. So how do you reset a relationship? Well, one of the first things that you're going to do is recognize where it isn't working. Now, if you are talking about a relationship with yourself, how is it possible that there could be something that isn't working? But as we spoke about a little earlier, when you find yourself listening to the voices of negativity and fear, when you're not heeding the voice of love, that's how you know that a reset is needed. Relationships require constant attention, be it your best friend or even a brand new acquaintance, be it your lover, be it somebody you don't know well at all, but you want to have more with. Relationships that are not constantly being worked on will constantly fall apart. Consciously choosing to be uplifting, constantly choosing to be clear with your communications, constantly choosing to do the loving thing makes a very big difference in any relationship. Be the one willing to take the first step toward peace, toward unity, toward love. Be the one willing to not see occasionally. Now, for some of you, I need to remind you that I said occasionally, because constantly choosing to not see is not going to be helpful for you in the big picture. What do I mean by choose sometimes to not see?
When you're living with someone and they have a habit that irritates you, rather than just picking on them and saying, don't.
Of course, she's not talking
I'm
about
not talking
you.
about you. Well, but looking the other way and saying, you know, that person has the right to be who they are, and we just have to make it work.
Very good, yes.
Denial.
Well, you want to be careful that it's not denial, but that you are choosing to not let something. Say it again, Suzanne.
Not let it get you.
Get you, yes. Not let it get you, not let it lead you, not let it change you. Relationships needing a reset. How do you reset? I just said that what you do is you recognize those things that aren't working. But how do you do the actual reset? Stuart?
I think sometimes just getting out of ruts and routines, taking a weekend getaway or a vacation can often help with that.
Good.
I think the second step is sharing that recognition with the other person.
Yes. I'd mentioned communication, clear communication. I thought that might be a hint. But talking about common goals, and that common goal might be the work situation that you're in. What can we do to make this easier? It doesn't have to be an intimate relationship, but that might also be something you need to talk about, your intimate relationship. All right, I won't make the joke that was coming up pretty clearly. you need to take some thoughts about what are we doing to keep our intimacy levels up, whether or not it is a sexual relationship. Humans need intimacy. First, I want to ask, how do you create intimacy in your relationship with yourself? And don't go to the jokes that I was going to go for. I'm asking here. Intimacy in the relationship with yourself. Stephen.
You listen to and honor your needs, the things you know that you need for yourself.
All right, I'm going to go right there. You honor the best of you. But that requires recognizing the best of you. In March, you had a lot of opportunity to see what was maybe not the best of you or the world you're living in. April, you might have felt a little shell-shocked and come off as rather controlling. May is about unity, working it out. Intimacy with yourself is about honoring who you are and what you are. And hopefully that's going to have you thinking about how much you like who you are and what you are. Living for you, balanced with serving this world, allows you to be proud of you, and that adds to the intimacy. What you do for yourself is usually how you treat others. When how you treat others is better than the way you treat yourself, you build up irritation and judgment. So how do you treat yourself? In positive, in loving ways. Because at that point, your natural desire to give is not going to create a restlessness, an irritation, a judgment. If you are intimate with yourself, you deeply know you. How deeply do you know you? If you are intimate with yourself, you simply don't choose to be harsh, to create more of those irritating little voices that tell you you're not enough. Intimacy with others in your life shows up in all kinds of ways as well. It can show up sexually, obviously. And as I have before, I would remind you that sacred sex is a very different thing than simply physical encounters. But you, as a human, need both. But the intimacy comes from recognizing that sacred union that comes about sexually. But that's not the only way, thank goodness, that you have intimacy with others. How do you have intimacy in your life with each other?
Make eye contact.
Something as simple as eye contact helps quite a bit.
I think being really authentic and being vulnerable.
And vulnerability is what I'll really go with there. Being willing to be human to human opens the door to be spirit to spirit. When you must be perfect, it means you've forgotten that you are perfect. Do you get that? And usually perfection comes with a kind of controlling that is the other side, the opposite of intimate. Being willing to be vulnerable adds quite a bit to intimacy. What else does? Come on. This is never a one-way conversation.
I think being honest and fearless in your desire to be close to someone, not to be afraid of it.
I like that. Being fearless in the risks of letting another person into your life. Not letting fear hold you back, but being willing to make a friend, to make a companion. I like that fearlessness. And that fearlessness also means fearlessly looking at the road in front of you. And that might go right back to reset. Intimacy with others.
Listening, really listening and validating the other person's perspective, giving that respect and recognition.
Respect, recognition, validating the other's experience. Whether or not you agree with what's being said, you're listening to it. You're choosing to work it out. You're choosing to pay attention. And you know, so many of these things sound so very basic because they are. But being basic also means they're easily forgotten or taken for granted. One of the very hardest things you have to do in this life is create meaningful working relationships with those around you. I said one of the hardest things you have to do is create meaningful working relationships in this life. Because every relationship you have is a reflection of that primary relationship, the one you have with yourself.
Allowing the other person or other being to have the freedom to make their own choices and go in their own direction.
Nice.
Whether you choose, whether you agree or not.
Very good, very good.
The other day, David and I were laughing about, it would be laughter. The other day, David and I were laughing about the physical things that are happening to us as we get older, and it created a bond because we both are going through it, and it, you might as well laugh about it and just...
Being willing to laugh at the situation, to laugh at yourself, but to laugh, yes. And actually, laughter will often create a relationship faster than loving them will. But that laughter will open that door to the opportunity for that love. That's good.
I think just sharing is the way that I think most relationships get to an intimate level. And then there has to be balance, because if you find the listener all the time, it's just like, well, that's boring because I want to talk about myself, and then there's no more intimacy there.
Indeed, indeed. And that very often can be the challenge, because when you think you are being intimate with another, you are showing them that you relate to what they are saying, and what you may be doing is hijacking the conversation to turn to yourself. Because you just wanted to show that, well, I too have had something like that happen, thinking that you are helping out, and all you're really doing is turning it toward yourself. So what about what I would tell you is your very most important relationship? The relationship that you have as a spiritual being functioning in this world. Your relationship with Source, the universe, God. That too requires intimacy. How do you have an intimate relationship with that which cannot be seen, at least easily? How do you do that?
I'm thinking one of the ways I do it is through gratitude.
Nice, nice. Gratitude, yes. That was it. Good, good.
I've heard you say one of the challenges is forgiving Source.
And why do you need to forgive Source?
Because you chose to come here and not knowing exactly what you were getting into. Kinda.
All right, I'll go with that.
Asking for help.
Good. Which is kind of vulnerability, eh?
I think meditation is the easiest way for me.
Good, good. That's opening a line of communication, meditation.
I think it's all of the same things that we've talked about with the others.
It is.
But what I find the most important, and we've kind of talked around it, is you have to give time to this relationship. And you have to give it attention. Well, you've said that it has to be worked on. And not just assume it's there.
Not just assume that it's there, but at the same time assume it is there. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Trusting and listening.
Good.
Any relationship requires that, but particularly if it's not a seen one, listening and trusting is
And trust can show itself up in that phrase I know and love, which is, I'm not making this up. You have put out to the universe, help me with this, help comes your way, and you think, oh, that was a coincidence. Synchronicity is a science. Don't be fooled. There are not accidents in your world. Don't be thinking there is. Remember what David said earlier about that butterfly effect idea? Although I would also call it a mini universes kind of idea. You put something into action and it opens doors. Intimacy with the universe does require a certain amount of trust. But trust is not blind faith. Work with it. Ask. If you're not seeing results in what you're doing, try something else. Keep going as you would with a friend. Keep communicating. Keep trying. Choose to repair a relationship with Source that hasn't been working, that's been one-sided. Have you ever thought to let the universe know that if it's going to talk to you, to do it in your language? Don't just give me obtuse symbols that mean something to someone else. Say it so I'll get it. Challenge the relationship. Recognize your part in it. Recognize your part as it. This is about resetting relationships. And the biggest thing that I said made that happen was intimacy in all of its different forms. Communication, trust, constantly working to repair, refresh, keep going. Intimacy, choosing to try. Intimacy with the relationship you have with yourself, with the relationships you have with those around you. Intimacy in your relationship with Source. And in some parts of your life, that's going to mean having to create the relationship in the first place. I just want to remind you, you are whole. You are perfect. You are a magnificent being of light that this universe adores. You are powerful beyond what you can imagine. You are better than anything you think. And you have that all covered in a cultural blanket of skin and bones and chemicals that does its best to tell you otherwise. You are remarkable. And you are a part of all that is. Remembering that changes your relationships. Remembering that everyone you see or feel is also that changes, is the biggest reset, is the primary factor in having an intimacy that makes a difference. Unity is what your solstice energy is going to be all about. That's more than a month away. But this year, the energy transmissions are all about the equinoxes and solstices as the major input to you. You are constantly downloading information through this universe. That energy is constantly flowing through you. And as you know you, as that magnificent connection into it all, you become aware of that constant flow moving through you. Unity is about two things: being willing to take a step and being willing to step back. And those are going to be your challenges. What in your life do you need to move forward with? And what in your life do you need to step back from? Relationships will be your guide to being able to make the best use of what's coming in. And your relationships need intimacy. Do not be afraid. Move forward. And do not forget to celebrate the feminine, because that's the heart of unity. It's a good month for it anyway. Questions and answers next time we're together. Look in the mirror.